Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. And keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are on Tuesday, January 30th. We're going to look at AMD. So AMD with earnings coming up, I thought we'd see where some support and resistance levels are, if it has a strong reaction, one direction or the other, which way it may go. Of course, there's always the possibility that it moves relatively sideways. That could certainly happen. But there's a couple of interesting things happening. Obviously, the run up to where we are currently was quite astronomical. I mean, down here in the low 90s and then topping out here at 184.92. So, one thing that I always consider is this sort of meteoric rise. And it's been going on for quite some time. So it's not necessarily like a meteoric rise headed into earnings, but if you zoom out a little bit like we are right now, it is sort of between earnings to earnings, right? So it's not like a super recent run up, but it is from last earnings to this earnings. So it's stretching that whole span and just an enormous kick up. So the question that I have often is, if the report is basically as expected, or maybe even if it's decent, does a sell-off still occur? Do folks sort of come in and say, okay, like that's good, or that's sort of what we expected, but we've really lit this thing on fire and sent up a rocket ship, and now it's time to sort of bring it down a little bit. Because even on good earnings, we've almost doubled the stock price, and that's just wild. So that's always something to consider. Of course, there's the flip side of that of like, hey, there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of support behind the stock. That's why it went through this meteoric rise, or part of the reason why. And so does that just sort of continue to follow through? Obviously, if it were to, then I would expect that it couldn't have a subpar report in any element of this earnings call. But we'll see what happens. But if it does continue to push up, obviously you have that like approach to 185 that it shrugged off previously. So we'll see if that holds. The near-sin level, as it sits now anyway, obviously this is quite on the move at the moment. But 174.50, support 168.41, and then 162.20, 158.74. If it really gets a sell-off, even if it's not just into tomorrow, but, in coming days, I do have these levels down here just in case we need them. It's not me indicating that I think it's particularly going to go one way or the other. As you probably know, if you've seen the channel before, I don't like the crystal ball mentality that some folks take to this stuff, so not even coming in close to that. But yeah, these are levels that I could just see if it interacts with them. I would expect support, the ones below. I would expect some resistance, the ones above. Of course, if it has a big gap down or a big gap up, I could skip them, and then maybe we look for a retest down the line. Now, on the Thinkorswim, bear with me for a moment, because I did pull in the ATR levels, just because, like I said, we had that 184 level that topped us out, and so we don't really have a lot to go off of. But if we pull in the ATR levels here, we see heading into the near future, we have a level here at about 186, I don't know what that is exactly, 186.17 or 20 or so, and then the next level up there at 195.60. Oh, there it is, 186.12. I was screwing myself up by putting my cursor over it. So those are some levels that, could stretch toward if it does have a big jump up. And even to that extent, that blue line, that call trigger there is 176.62. So that's also situated above. As you can see, these are sort of moving as things are moving. So, if you're watching this after hours or something like that, like these are dynamic. So these are shifting as things are happening. But those are the swing levels as they sit. Now I'm going to take this off and just sort of look at where things are in the channel. So obviously that big push, or most recent push up, obviously you had several of them pushed up out of the channel, and now it's sort of looking like it wants to toy with re-entering the channel. So what's it going to do? when that interplay follows through, that's always a big question we have. Does it ride the upper bound of the channel like we saw here? Does it ride the wave cloud like we saw here? Often means that there's more bullish momentum to exhaust, and sometimes that can sort of take two forms. It can have an immediate another push, and then when it comes back into the channel and retests the mid-range, which is something we always look for it to do when a stock leaves the channel, then it has some more additional bullish momentum to exhaust. So I mean, you look at the histogram here too, and it's just been sort of one bullish cloud after another, not even getting back to the baseline. So if it does start to peel back, it's not that far of a stretch to get toward the mid-range of the channel there, about 161 and some change at the moment. So we'll see how that takes shape. And if it does start to peel down on the histogram, like we saw here and here, is it able to kick it back up right around that mid-range or that midpoint of the channel? And if so, does that mean that we have, an opportunity for another push? We'll see. But obviously, with things like these setups, the reaction to earnings could be so outsized that it just sort of, you come in tomorrow and you just have a whole different view of things. To reiterate what I said at the beginning of the video, you could also have a relatively sideways reaction. So don't discount that that's, of course, a possibility, even though I'm looking at where things may stretch if we get a big push up or a big pull down. All right, folks, I hope that your trading week is off to a good start. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.